Off top. All right, so the Sarver stuff, been thinking about it a lot today, and it's a lot to be upset and confused and angry about, but I didn't want to do that. Like, I think the way it hit me after thinking about it a lot is like we aren't like fully formed at 18, 21, 78. I don't know how he is, but like we're always kind of changing, and there's different events and people and stories and just stuff that happens in our life that changes us in little ways and sometimes in big ways. And hopefully they change us for the good. I can think of lots of things from I don't know recent last week that like embarrassed me. I think of things on a teenager that make me cringe. To be honest, what I thought about today was like a year ago. Like I'm still embarrassed about one time a year ago. Like I kind of went off on Aaron Rodgers on TV about the vax situation, and I don't know. It's embarrassing. It was like emotional and reflexive and like accomplished nothing, and it like embarrassed me. And I don't know. It was that I think it was that like the lack of empathy that I had for him in that situation was like hypocritical in that I was kind of yelling about wanting him to have empathy for other people. So anyway, that particular embarrassment, like it was like a pinch, like it hurt. It was a pinch every time I thought about it, every time someone brought it up to me, and like randomly it would come into my mind, and it would be like a reminder, incentive, like a stick, not a carrot for sure, but it was a stick that reminded me to like evolve or change or be closer to the person that I want to be, and like try to bring the empathy that I expect from other people, try to bring it to other situations and not be like grandstandy, like whatever. And this was another opportunity. Whenever someone does something ridiculous in sports, it's an opportunity for me to like test that. And I mean, it's just in life in general. So like my first instinct when the Sarver thing came up was like to be all grandstandy and indignant and realize there's plenty of people doing that. There's no need for me to do that anymore. And I wanted to come from a different perspective. But then he put that statement out. That thing was absurd. And as a man of faith, unforgiving climate, and it overshadowed all his good works. Like that upset me. And it just felt like he's feeling sorry for himself. But anyway, the point is like it's not a death sentence. He's gonna be all right. And it's not an unforgiving climate. Like this climate is not unforgiving. What happened is like he refused to learn. Like he refused to learn and grow from those like little pinches. Like it was 17 years where you were being forgiven and people were telling you not to do this, and you were reading stories about other people not, presumably you were reading stories about other people not doing this. You were, I assume, putting everyone in your business through like workplace behavior like seminars that we have to do, we all have to do at our companies. Like this, it was no reason for you not to learn. Like you can't call it an unforgiving climate when you've been being forgiven for 17 years. So you chose not to learn from those pinches, and pinch after pinch after pinch, 17 years. Finally, you just got punched, and it hurt. You didn't get killed, but it hurt. And again, in an effort to like be empathetic in situations, like I be honest, like I can understand how this feels like shitty, frankly. But I guess I can also understand how immediate reaction could be anger and defensiveness and whatever. Like that's human nature. And if I am to, he said it as a man of faith, and like I don't really consider myself a man of faith, but like I was raised in church and around enough to know many of the teachings that seem like really useful. And I would think that there's plenty of somethings in there about being like humble in situations and treating people the way you want to be treated and taking responsibility and all that stuff. But, and I mean, I'm sure there's stuff about paying the price for your actions. Like that feels like the whole New Testament is about people paying the price for their actions. So as a man of faith, which you called yourself, I feel like you should understand, and he should understand that this is not like the result of this new unforgiving culture. Like, it's you paying a price for choosing, frankly, not to learn. And you can't pretend like you didn't know that, like, expectations had changed. Or, I mean, forget what expectations were, but it's like about empathy. Honestly, like, in the report, it said that people told you not to say certain things. So even if you want us to believe that you live in some bubble where you didn't know that these things were wrong, like, the report suggests that people told you it was wrong. And I'm sure you can imagine being in a situation and not wanting someone to pull your pants down, or not wanting someone to comment on your body, or not, frankly, creating an inequitable environment, which is how the report phrased what you were doing. And I think in situations like this, it's easy and, like, cathartic in ways, and feels good for us to, like, yell and point at someone else because they're racist, or someone else because they're sexist or misogynist, or whatever the ism is that they are guilty of. But I don't think that accomplishes anything, honestly. And I think it's also, like, I guess it accomplishes that it makes us feel good. But in this case, to me, what it boils down to is you run an organization, and the bar should be higher, the responsibility should be higher than it is for the average person. Like, you get lots of perks from being really rich and running a basketball or owning a basketball team, and what comes with that is a little bit more responsibility. But anyway, back to the point that I was trying to make, is that it's not the result of an unforgiving culture. You are just paying a price that you refuse to pay, which it would have been much cheaper if you just paid it the first time, which the first time you did something that was unacceptable, the price then was an apology and not to do it again. And probably would have you probably would have gotten away with that many times going forward and try to be better, but you refused to pay it. So the price got bigger and bigger until now you're getting forced, which is funny that I call this a price, because the price that you're paying is someone's going to give you $1 billion. That's not much of a consequence to be upset about. All right, so I get that you could still be upset being forced to do anything, because I don't imagine that being a billionaire, heterosexual white man, you don't get told to do very much, and I get that that's uncomfortable. This is me doing my best attempt at empathy. It's kind of tough. But anyway, so once you have some time to, like, let it soak in and realize the truth of this situation, that you're going to be fine, and that this is your fault. It's not anyone coming down on you. Maybe you'll realize that this doesn't have to overshadow your good work. Like, there's no reason to stop doing good work if that's or to do better work. Like, like, you might be better positioned now to make an impact than you were before, frankly. So you don't have to be remembered as the guy who got his team, I guess he didn't get it taken from him, who was forced to take billions of dollars for creating an inequitable work environment. And again, and I guess empathy feels like the theme of all of this. I can't imagine that if someone was doing this in a place where you worked, or if someone was doing this to you. Like, imagine being in a owners meeting and some other owner came up to you and made references to your body parts, or forced you to dance with them, or whatever the many nonsense things that are in the report. Don't imagine you would stand for it. So anyway, I think This went longer than I was expecting, and I got a little off topic. But the point is, you're going to be fine. And you need to take responsibility for your part in all of this. Play the music, I guess.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
Dominique, I got one question before we start. I wanted to ask you this on both. It broke during Debatable, so I didn't get a chance to ask. Do you think this happened because LeBron and Chris Paul and the NBA and the players put so much pressure on it?
I'm so happy you asked that question. I mean, I did not tell you to ask me that, but I'm glad you did. I brushed this thought by the side. I absolutely think they did. And the reason why I'm happy you asked me that is because, as you know, I'm a union guy. I'm a player power guy. And so I hear so many people complaining about player empowerment and the bad things that come along with it. And I try not to be that biased. And I recognize that some of the stuff that player empowerment leads to is bad and annoying and frustrating. It makes the game harder to like and harder to love. However, this is a result of player empowerment. Like all these things that we want to celebrate about this league being progressive is a result of players having power. And I guess I would say that before we entered this, whatever we're calling it, like player empowerment, which I guess we mark as LeBron's decision as like the beginning of that. Like before that, plenty of like uncomfortable, bad things happened in the game. And not like, I guess there's uncomfortable bad things like this, and also like uncomfortable bad things that made the game harder to watch and harder to love, like the smaller things. Plenty of that stuff happened. I guess my point is there is no perfect system, and that's a tough thing to like accept as an adult, I guess, because we want to be right, and it's really tough to accept in this line of work because you want to be right and you're like arguing and you try to pretend like, and I guess it's any line of work is we all kind of use our logic after our emotion, and we're really talented lawyers for ourselves, and that our emotion tells us how to feel. This is from a book that I read a while ago. It's just talking about how we make decisions and how we justify our behavior, and it's called The Righteous Mind. It's by Jonathan Haidt. It's one of my favorite books, honestly. And it just talks about how emotion decides how we feel about something. And then we use logic to justify our decision. And then we convince ourselves that we arrived at our decision using logic. And I think we do that often with everything, honestly. And like, I think, honestly, people who complain about player empowerment are uncomfortable with a lot of other things about player empowerment. Not necessarily what happens. Like, it's not really that, I don't know, LeBron can control the Lakers, or that, I don't know, James Harden forced his way out of a couple teams. I get it. It's annoying, but that's not really it. It's more about not liking who has the power and being uncomfortable with seeing, I could spell it out if I wanted to, but I might as well now. It's like uncomfortable with seeing young Black men who you feel like are already lucky enough. You're uncomfortable with them wielding that power in a way. And maybe also, it's also true that some of the things that they do with that power sucks, but that's true of everybody.
Yeah.
Like some of the things that everyone does with their power sucks. And I guess it's a long roundabout way to say that no matter what decision you've ever made in your life, that decision comes with some drawbacks. Like there's nothing that's perfect. That decision comes with some drawbacks. And that's a price to kind of tie it back into the off the top that's part of the price. And the price, if the price for a system where people who are responsible for creating inequitable work environments are forced out of the league, if the price for that is some players can demand a trade, it's the price I'm willing to pay. And again, I accept that I'm coming from a place of bias. So anyway, Charlie, Great producing. Good
I got one more. Actually, I got one more question. I need to know your. Sorry, I actually like been dying to ask you this all day. Player empowerment. Since we've gotten there, that's the theme of what everyone says is going to happen in the next CBA. And you've been there. You've been through this. Players were just played an integral part in what seems like a massive inflection point for the league, forcing an owner who normally wields their power over the players to sell his team.
Yeah.
How do you think the other owners are going to react when in the next CBA? Or is this going to be like is there going to be punitive things because there are other ignominious owners who don't want to meet the same end as Robert Sarver?
That'll be interesting. I mean, I'm sure that, so I mean, it's not just Robert Sarver, like the players' empowerment also, I think, had a lot to do with the silver thing. And it also had a lot to do with like the words on the jerseys and the stuff on the court, which I don't think, I don't pass any judgment on how useful or effective any of that was. I just don't think that it's something that the owners were interested in doing because it could also impact the bottom line negatively. So anyway, I don't think that the owners of the teams or governors, excuse me, that's what they call themselves in basketball now. And that was also probably a result of player empowerment, not thinking that they should be called owners. I think Draymond was one of the people who brought that up a while ago. But I don't think they're going to take this sitting down. Like they want to address the player power and player movement. I'm sure they want to address the player power and how it impacts the way that they behave or the way that they are held accountable. But I'm not sure how they do that in a way that's not obvious and embarrassing, but I'm sure they'll figure it out. So I will be watching very closely and reading. I mean, I read CBAs anyway, because that's fun. But I'll read it and figure out what they put in there. But I'm sure there'll be penalties for like harsher penalties probably for not playing. So like the force out things. I'm not sure how they'll try to control the player's speech in situations like this, but I'd be surprised if they just let it ride. That's all.
Should we talk about some football?
Oh yeah, it's a football pod. Let's do it.
All right. We got a crappy.
Where do you want to start?
Game.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to spend much time on the Thursday night game, but we can. I mean, I think Sure, go ahead.
I got one question about it. I think this is the only interesting thing is that the Steelers are already complaining about Matt Canada, Mitch Trubisky, like Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, and Kenny Pickett was kind of good in the preseason. Why aren't they playing him? Their offense is atrocious. And what is Kenny? It's not like Kenny Pickett's sitting behind, Patrick Mahomes. He's not getting anything from watching Mitch Trubisky. Why not just play him?
Well, I mean, I think I get where you're coming from, but what you're getting from watching Mitch Trubisky or what Kenny Pickett is getting from watching Mitch Trubisky is not ruined. And so his offensive line statistically is better than it was last year, but I have no reason to believe that that'll hold up. And Mitch Trubisky is not good. Or, I mean, I guess he was good for one season, but he's not the long-term answer. I mean, he went to a Pro Bowl, which I know that bar changed. He took them to the playoffs. But anyway, the point was
starting a cookie for that.
Yeah, you could win with Mitch Trubisky at one point in Chicago, is all I'm saying. So anyway, my point is it kind of speaks to the institutional stability that we've been talking about for a while, and how we also talked about how the best quarterbacks in football are quarterbacks that came into good situations. So that would be the explanation. And I can't speak for what they're thinking in that locker room or what Mike Tomlin is thinking. But if you ask me to go locker room lawyer, which is a fun segment we broke out last time, the way I would defend this is we need to improve this situation before we put Kenny Pickett, the guy that we believe is the future around here, a first round pick, even though it was kind of late and he fell to him. But anyway, we don't need to put him out there until the circumstances are right, because we believe, like Domonique Foxworth taught us, that players don't bust, organizations do. And we're not going to bust with this pick. So, I mean, that's a great argument because I'm great. So don't play him.
I just don't know. Like, I mean, you said the offensive line is improved. The weapons are Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, George Pickens, Najee Harris, Pat Fryermuth. He's already 24 years old. He's like way older than Trevor Lawrence and those guys. Like at some point he's got to play, and it's going to get cold.
Gronk.
And his tiny baby hands aren't going to do well in the cold.
So I said the offensive line has improved statistically. So I think they're like 10th for pass rush block rate. So I don't actually think they're that much better, but they've improved statistically. So I'm someone who believes that you don't get better by watching. I think Patrick Mahomes would have been great if they put him out there the first year because that situation was good. But I also do believe that you can ruin a player by putting him out there in a bad situation. I wouldn't call this a like catastrophic situation because, I mean, they got him in the 20s because they were not a bad team last year.
Yeah.
But I do think that that's the best argument for it. So I'm not opposed to them turning to him, but putting him out there for his first start against Myles Garrett, that won't be fun. Especially if you're a Steelers fan. You remember Myles Garrett doing all types of things. People were calling for assault charges for what he was doing to your quarterbacks. So, I mean, that's the argument. I don't know if I believe it necessarily, but I mean, I do believe that you can ruin a quarterback. And I also don't believe that one player is good enough to turn things around for a team, even if it is a quarterback. And I guess you would argue that I would agree that one player, if it's a quarterback, is bad enough to ruin a team. So maybe that's it. It's like put them in and see what happens. But I think it's wise to wait for the right situation and not rush them out there.
That's fair. That's fair. It's so weird. It's just so weird seeing a Steelers team, and they're 1-1. So I don't want to be hyperbolic, but their offense seems so atrocious that it almost makes the season feel like a throwaway. And it's so weird from Mike Tomlin Steelers team.
Yeah, they don't throw anything away. Like the one year that they could have thrown away and would argue they should have thrown away and gotten a high draft pick, they traded that high draft pick to get Minkah Fitzpatrick. And like, that's a culture thing, which I believe and agree with. It's like, as bad as you could argue that was, I don't even remember who was in the draft that year. What quarterbacks were in the draft that year? But anyway, maybe they missed out on a great quarterback and they should have done it. But in general, I think that this culture of competition and this culture of we don't give up and we're not tanking, we're not rebuilding, like that's a culture that they have there. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. I think all that is tied in. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the Steelers have been competitive for pretty much my entire life. From the time I was a kid, even if they weren't winning Super Bowls, like they were always a pretty good team. And I think all that stuff matters. And if trading a pick away maintains that type of culture, I'm with it. And I guess you would argue that rolling Trubisky out there right now is not consistent with that culture, but I don't know. We'll see. We will see. We spent too much time on this bad game. Is there anything Browns related that we care about? I don't know.
We don't want to talk about the Browns.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
What game is next on the docket?
Okay, let's do Bills Dolphins, and let's do something that you have termed take down. I'm going to pitch you a take about this game and validate it. Tell us how we got there, build the framework, or tear it down, tear it to shreds.
That.
Okay. Bills Dolphins. This is the Josh Allen and Tua game. And this is a weekend that I think a lot of sports fans are looking forward to, not because of this quarterback matchup, but to one we're going to talk about later between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. But my take on this game, this is by far and away the most interesting quarterback matchup of the weekend.
Nothing to take down. It's absolutely right. So it's the most interesting game of the weekend in my view. Because it's a measuring stick game, which it feels like them and the other one that falls in this category, which might surprise you, is the Green Bay Packers against the Bucs. It's another measuring stick game. And I think we want to find out if the Packers had a rough week one, or if all the changes, injuries on offensive line and losing number one receiver, if all that has really changed this team. So I think that matters for that game. In this game, it's obvious, like what the Dolphins have done so far and Mike McDaniel, beating Bill Belichick in week 1, John Harbaugh in week 2, 2 Super Bowl champion great coaches, 2 really well-run organizations. If it's real, and considering how wild their offseason was and embarrassing their offseason was, for them to have this start right now, it's really impressive. And I actually think that they can win. And I might even pick them to win. I got to submit my picks pretty soon for ESPN. I'm leading all the ESPN.
You really think the Dolphins are going to win?
I do. I mean, I don't, but I think it's possible, and I'm willing to risk it. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I know, obviously, because none of us know. But it's the same thing we've been talking about for the Bills for a couple weeks now. Is what their weakness is, and their weakness is their corners, and their front has been good enough to make it so. A combination of their front and their ability to score points early has been good enough to make teams stop trying to run the ball, which allows the safeties, their 2 superstar safeties, to stay deep and allows them to play variations of 2 high safety looks that takes the pressure off corners, cover 2s, 2-mans, those sorts of things that they don't have to drop down to a cover 3 or man coverage, which would end up isolating your corners. So the reason why I think the Dolphins could beat that is because Mike McDaniel is champion run game coordinator. This zone blocking scheme could potentially, you just have to make a mistake here or there. One person, that's the beauty of the zone blocking scheme, is if you have a good running back who's quick, fast, has good vision, if one person's out of their position, then there's a big run. And especially if you're 2-gapping, which it's really hard to 2-gap against zone blocking schemes because the gaps move, because the linemen are moving. So anyway, long story short, I think that is the key, is if San Francisco's former run game coordinator can coordinate some runs that are good enough that it's going to require somebody to play one of the safeties to come in and join in the running attack. And if they do that, I mean, there aren't 2 corners in the league good enough to man up on Waddle and Hill for a whole game and not give anything up. Certainly aren't playing for the Bills right now.
Yeah.
So that's what it boils down to, is can they score enough early, or run the ball enough early, or play good enough defense early to keep the score close so that they can continue to run and force them out. And then you compound that with the Miami Heat. I think there's a chance. So I'm going with them because I want to win.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you something. I went to Vanderbilt, which means I got to see a lot of lopsided football games.
Oh, God.
I got to see Vanderbilt play, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, when they were all really, really good. You know what I'm not used to seeing? NFL teams make the other teams look like Vanderbilt. And that's what the Bills have done through 2 weeks. Yeah. And I actually think that the Dolphins are very good. I think injuries to the Bills secondary is probably disturbing when you have to play against the Dolphins' weapons. Mm-hmm. With all of that said, Josh Allen looks like a superhero right now. He looks like he's saying something I never thought. He looks more physically talented than Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. And you watch these games, and he looks like a Heisman Trophy winner versus Vanderbilt, to go back to the analogy. And I actually think that they're going to win. They're going to cover. And I think we're going to start getting people talking about, ooh, greatest show on turf. Ooh, 17-0. Like, is this the best team since the 07 Patriots? Because the sheer counting stats on this Bills team being plus 55 through 2 games. And game 1 was against the Super Bowl champs. They haven't gone out and beaten nobodies. Like, I think we're going to leave this game and they'd be like, holy shit, this Bills team is unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a definite possibility, but there is an argument and there's a reason to believe. I could be potentially wrong, but I think I'm right. And I guess what Greeny does on Get Up sometimes is he asks you to bet your house or something like that, which I think forces you away from this, like, there is a chance type of stuff that I'm doing right now. And you have to really pick. And I'm trying to think if I would bet my house against Josh Allen right now. And I don't think I would, but fortunately I don't have to bet my house. I'm currently in the lead, like I mentioned, of the ESPN analysts. That's all I could potentially lose is my ESPN analyst lead, and I could look really smart. So what we're going to do is we're going to put up this podcast. And if I'm right, we're going to go back and retroactively remove all the qualifiers that I put in there and just make it seem like we just clip out the part where it seemed like I was like, I know what's going to happen. And then we can put that on the internet for everyone to enjoy. Deal? Deal.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the second game. I got to take for you on this one. This is Bucks Packers. You called this a litmus test game. Both these quarterbacks, I think it's pretty fair to say, Tom Brady said it. Aaron Rodgers will probably agree with it. They're old and they got a lot of shit going on in their lives. But you know what I'm pretty surprised by? They don't have explosive offenses. They don't have weapons. And this quarterback matchup and this offensive matchup is not interesting at all. It's not fun. As a fan perspective, I don't expect it to pop up on Red Zone a lot. I don't think it's going to be a titanic clash. And I'm wondering, these two teams have been really good over the last several years. How did we get here? And am I wrong for having this take that this is going to be a boring football game?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to be the football hipster that says good defense isn't boring because I get what you're saying, but watching them goons on Tampa play defense has been fun. Like that is fun. They be hitting the hell out of people, running around and getting into scuffles. It's the type of football that I enjoy watching, but I would tell my son not to play. Like, don't be like that. Don't do that. But I love watching it. So I don't know that it'll be boring, but it'll be low scoring for sure because Tampa's defense may be the best in football and Green Bay's defense is at least very talented, but Tampa's offense isn't explosive at all. They've run the ball well, but they aren't explosive. And Tom Brady is not being Tom Brady. But he did bring in a tiny white slot receiver. He signed Cole Beasley. So he is in his element. I don't even remember what your question was. Oh, it's going to be boring. I don't think it'll be boring because the stakes are so high. It could be sloppy. It could be bad, but it matters. So like I can watch a high school basketball championship and nowhere and be enthralled because of the stakes. Like it matters to me.
Why does it matter so much? Like both of their divisions stink.
The stakes are high because it's a litmus test game. The stakes are at least high for Green Bay. I think I called it a measuring stick game. You went a little nerdier and went litmus test because you went to Vanderbilt, but I like measuring stick game better because it feels more football-y. I'm not trying to be a nerd like you. So yeah, I think that's why it's high because it feels like if they lose, then we have to start asking about like Green Bay's chances for real, right? Are they really not good this year because it's a new team? And it also like invites the Tom Brady conversation because if Tampa loses, I assume Tom's also going to play poorly, and then we have to start talking about how good is Tom Brady, you know? So this is a little bit of a tangent, but I think we all accept that Tom Brady is not accepting his physical aging. Like he's doing stuff with his hair and whatever.
Yes.
I kind of don't get it because I can't wait till I get gray hair because I think I'm going to look hot. And Roman Harper is my inspiration. I don't have gray hair, but anytime if you don't know who Roman Harper is, and this is weird, so I'm sorry, Roman, if this makes you uncomfortable, but often when I'm in the Seaport, his TV's on the SEC network, and I see my homie Spencer Hall sometime, and he's fun and funny. And then Roman Harper pops up, and I'm like, it's just striking. The gray hair, I don't know. It's a tangent, but I mean, I don't want to bald, so I'm not going to tempt the hair gods by complaining about my full head of hair and my hairline that it ain't what it used to be, but it's holding on. Like, we used to be in the goal line defense. Now we got a little bit of cover too. Like the corners are getting off the hashes. So I'm fine with it, but they're not going back too far. But
you still got a 4-man front. You still got Vita Vea in the middle.
Oh, we can stop the run up here. We borderline Widow's Peak in the middle, baby. It's good. I don't have a problem with the front. The corner's getting a little too much depth, but it's all right. It happens. I'm hanging in there. I'll be 40 next year. I'm happy with my hair right now. However, I see a couple grays popping in on my face, on my hair, and I like it. Like, I don't get it. I feel like I don't love the wrinkles on my forehead. I'm not going to do anything about it, but the gray hair, I mess around and diet. I'm trying to get my Roman harp on. Anyway, back to what matters.
Okay.
You're not as old as me, so you don't even think about the gray hair, huh?
I'm 32, and also
Okay.
I sort of look like a gigantic 15-year-old, so I haven't hit that point yet.
Good for you. All right. What else you want to talk about? Any more in this game that matters to you?
No. That was my big take on this. I have a lot to talk to you about on 49ers Broncos. And there are two takes I want you to take down.
Did you see Russ?
Yes.
I'm sure you saw it. The clips of Russ. He's telling them to yell out, run or pass. Poor Russ.
That was the first. So I played Pop Warner football, and I played high school football, and I remember like coaches telling you to yell that, but I just assumed that stopped once everyone was good and focused. Yeah. How lame is that on an NFL sideline?
I mean, all right. To continue. So my wife got on me. I don't know if you listened to the last episode, to the end of the last episode, but my wife got on me for being too hard on Russ. And in the spirit of the empathy theme of this particular podcast, yes, lame. I can't. I tried to fix it. I can't. It's one of those things that you can get away with if you're good. You know, like if Tom Brady did that on the sideline of a Super Bowl, we would all be like, see, that's the reason. But Russ, the public has turned on Russ for whatever reasons. I won't speculate. Seems like a nice enough guy to me. And his wife is amazing. They're good people. See, I learn. I grow. I'm going to make sure I clip this so she can hear it and see. I listen to her thorns. But anyway, I just think that's what it comes down to is Russ is now in that place that if he don't start winning and scoring, and he has a history of stuff like this, but if he were playing well, like if they balled out, this would be the clip that people showed and like, see, Russ is locked in. He lets nothing slide. And I think
he didn't even know number 96's name. 96, 96, go up there, yell pass.
That's football lingo. Like we used to call Champ Tufo. And
no. This is a rookie from Iowa State named Iyomi Uwazurike who plays on the defensive line. There's no chance Russell Wilson knew who that was.
Russell knows his name.
And he was just punching down on him.
Russell knows his name.
No way.
So no way. Here we go. We'll break out locker room lawyer twice in this episode. And I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm a defense attorney, so I must defend him. And this is the point. The point is you don't let the little things slide, right? That's the argument for it. Is yes, this doesn't matter right here, but it's a small thing. And I'm sure you've heard coaches say that, and you may believe that. You might implement that with your little dog Dobby. Like you can't let the little things slide because they become big things. Yeah. So that is the best argument. Are you trying to you don't think that if Tom Brady did this in a Super Bowl, we'd be like, in the Super Bowl that they won, we'd be like, he's locked in, right?
You tell me. When you're on the sideline, were you yelling pass and run?
I was on the field.
But like, you, in theory, were your teammates on the side? Okay, it's pro football. I mean, it's not Pop Warner football.
Pass was being yelled sometimes. On the field, you yell it? Or, I don't know. Okay, well, maybe I lost this case. I don't need a judge. We'll settle out of court. Let's keep it moving. Okay, what about this game specifically do you want to know?
So... This is the thing. I don't want to pile on Nathaniel Hackett too much, but I saw this take from Ben Solak that I think has been floating around the internet that a lot of people agree with. And it's the sunk cost fallacy. It seems like the Broncos just hired Nathaniel Hackett to try and lure Aaron Rodgers, and that didn't happen. Yeah. And now they're just stuck with him. How stuck with him are they? And is this fixable? Because this has been like a disaster in the worst coach situation of a talented roster in the league.
Of course it's fixable. You fire him. That's the fix. Is it a disaster? It feels as close. I mean, a disaster is a strong word, but it feels obvious that he's not ready for the job. And I don't think I would consider it sunk cost fallacy as much as I consider it. You lost your bet. Like you risked it, and that's the game is risky. And scared money don't make no money is what they say, but they don't talk about the fact that sometimes you lose that money. And so it feels like they lost that money. Firing him now does not solve anything. It just makes your team look messier unless you got somebody on that staff that you think is ready, which presumably the best coach is the head coach. So I would not be opposed, and they got that Walmart money. It's long bread. I'm not opposed to them firing him and paying him out at the end of the year. But who are you going to hire right now? I guess I don't get the point of doing it right now. Do you think that things get better?
No, I have no idea. I mean, like we are careening towards the Urban Meyer line, who made it 13 games. Sorry, Nate, you seem like a lovely guy. I've heard you on a couple podcasts.
Nathaniel.
I thought he's Nate until he gets a dub.
No, we are not doing that. We're not messing with that man's name. Nathaniel Hackett is what he wants to be.
Okay, Nathaniel Hackett.
You can go Nate if you want to. I don't care. I don't know. I'm just playing.
You seem no, but like, I have no idea if it gets better, if it gets worse. Like, there seems to be scar tissue building up. I do have one other question about this game. And I hate to make it a zero-sum situation, but which game managing quarterback do you have more faith in, Russell Wilson or Jimmy Garoppolo?
I love that. Russell Wilson is not a game management quarterback.
He is right now. He is through 2 weeks.
I mean, he's not actually. He put up big numbers the first week. They just fumbled in the red zone. Like, it wasn't.
If he could have managed the play clock and gotten to the line sooner, Javonte wouldn't have fumbled.
That's just one of them. That's not the other one. But anyway, that's not okay. Either way, it doesn't matter. I don't have to argue. We can look at Russ's career and say he's not a game manager.
No, of course not. Yeah.
But I obviously have more faith in Russ than I do Jimmy Garoppolo. But I certainly have more faith in the 49ers organization than I do in the Broncos right now. And that's what it comes down to.
And that's the interesting thing about comparing the quarterbacks. I think Jimmy Garoppolo's job is so much easier. And that context is significant in this.
But Russ wanted a harder job. That's the whole genesis of him getting out of Seattle, right? Is or at least part of it. So I mean, I don't know. I hadn't picked anybody for this game, but I feel like I just made my decision is that I'll go with the 49ers, right? Because
I'm totally with you. I think that they haven't played good football yet, and they're 1-1, and this is a really this is a measuring stick game for me too, because they're playing against a really good defense and someone who has historically been a really good quarterback.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think I don't know. I hadn't picked that game yet, but if I'm gonna stick by my philosophies, everything would suggest that you got to go with the 49ers in this situation because Nathaniel Hackett and that team, it's not going to get better. I mean, there's so much stuff to do week to week for a team. There's so many things to get prepared for, so many things to worry about. There's limitations on practice time. There's not enough time to do all that stuff. They are putting on top of the normal jam-packed week, rethinking their clock management situation. Again, because they said they did it last week and it still was bad.
How do you even rethink that? Isn't it just what the clock is?
No, I mean, I think decision-making processes is a process, and different organizations have different processes, different people involved in different parts of the decision, and different people have the final say. Some teams, the head coach calls the plays, and some teams, someone else calls the plays. Some teams have an analytics guy in the ear of defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. There are different processes, and then you go into the locker room and certain coaches go to certain rooms. They have a certain amount of time to make adjustments and then go out and share it with the players. So they're different teams do things differently. So I don't know. Maybe they have too many people involved in the process. Maybe the wrong person is making the final decision. And maybe Nathaniel Hackett he's the one who makes the final decision, but he's not thinking far enough ahead because he is tied up in the play-by-play, which I could understand happening. So that's the process. And the problem is the process obviously doesn't work. So they need a new one. But that's the point of preseason is you implement these processes and you practice them in the game. And you practice them in joint practices. And you practice them during 2-minute drill when you're practicing against your own team. They got to implement that and practice it so it goes smoothly while they're also installing a game plan. It's hard. I'm even convincing myself even more the 49ers are going to win. Where's this game? Do you know?
Let me check.
Can we bet? Can we bet on this?
We'll get there. We can. I have 6 bets that I really believe in this week. You told me to get 4 and I got 6.
Let's go.
Okay, let's do one more game before we get there.
All
And
right, cool.
this is actually not as good of a game, but it's the game I'm most interested in, and it's the Lions and the Vikings. And the reason I want to ask you, the take I have is I don't think the Lions are that bad. I think both these teams are they're going to be like the fun teams that can stick around and hang in a lot of games because of how good their offense is. But my question to you is my take that I want you to take down or agree with is the NFC North is wide open, and the winner of this game is going to be right there with the Packers for the rest of the season.
Right. The winner of this game is right there for the rest of the season. I don't have a strong feeling on this take, so I'm going to propose that we switch it from takedown to marry, kiss, kill take.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like that as an idea?
Sure.
Because I feel like I don't want to marry this take. I'll kiss this take. I won't kill this take.
Okay. And we can punt this one a little bit too, because I have a homework assignment for you for this game.
Okay.
And I actually so I play fantasy football, and I'm one of the million amorous lovers of Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
And this is someone who is 5'11". He ran a 4.5, but he's in his second year and he looks like he's one of the 10 best wide receivers in the NFL. And I don't understand why, other than the fact that he just seems like he's really good at football and he's able to beat zones in the middle of the field. And we can circle back on this, but I would love to know from your perspective, after he goes into a game where he might be as good of a receiver as Justin Jefferson on the other side in this given week, from a fantasy perspective, how is this possible from this fourth round pick?
All right. I'll watch him closely. And I'll go back and check it all out. Is the question, I'll figure out whether people missed on him or what he's doing, what's makes him
sustainable
special. Yeah, is it sustainable? All that stuff. He's doing it with Jared Goff in Detroit, so it feels impressive. I haven't watched him closely so far, but I've obviously know he's putting up big numbers. Him and Swift, this offense is good. I mean, I told you before that I resisted the urge. I watched one episode of
Hard Knocks. Do it.
And I felt myself falling in love with this team, and I didn't watch another episode because I didn't want to have to love the Lions, who I just assumed were going to stink because the Lions always stink. But now I miss it. I wish I would have gotten on it because I would have enjoyed these first couple weeks a lot more because they are a fun team.
They're really fun, and I actually think it's they've put together a crazy skill position set. This is the last thing. Looming behind all of this is Jameson Williams, and I don't know if you're as much of a draft nerd as I am on this, but
I know Jameson. He
was the best. He was the best receiving prospect.
He was the best receiver in the draft until he got hurt in the championship game.
And it's not just that. It's the scouting reports that I read, and obviously this was sort of eye test apparent too. A lot of the draft nerds said that he was the most explosive receiver prospect to come into the league since Tyreek Hill. And that's crazy, putting that next to Swift and Amon-Ra. Unfortunately, it's TJ Blockinson playing tight end. With that said, still a lot of explosive playmakers on the Lions.
It'll be fun to see. I mean, I guess this is this could be one of those places that'll be really attractive for a quarterback who wants out, who I don't know who it's going to be, but it seems like that's the trend lately with Rodgers. I mean, not with Rodgers, with Russell and Brady and Stafford, and Matt Ryan. It seems like the trend is quarterbacks late in their career who are doing well want to move. Can we guess who that guy's going to be? Because it feels like all the other good quarterbacks are locked up. I don't know. Maybe if your man Cooper Rush keep cooking, Dak Prescott gonna be looking for a trade partner. I hope not. Oh God.
I mean, that would be great for him to end up in Detroit compared to Dallas right now.
Oh gosh, it'd be great. Yeah, it's nobody, right?
There's no one right now.
I mean, Marcus Mariota.
I got it. You know who needs an injection of grit?
Who's that?
You know who just needs a little to be wrapped up in a big hug from Dan Campbell? It'll look really small in his arms.
Oh,
Kyler Murray. This is the dome setup for Kyler Murray.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, they're not going to let him get out of there. Well, they might, because he might force his way out. I don't know. We'll see. I see that as unlikely. It's going to be somebody more like Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota, or maybe they'll trade up in the draft or something, or maybe they'll just stink again. Oh, Joe Flacco. He's the guy.
A lot of good quarterbacks in this draft.
Daniel Jones is going to be looking for a job after this season. He's not good, though.
Jimmy G, too.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Jimmy G. Yeah, that's the guy. He's going to be unemployed. They might extend him. So that's what it's going to be. It's going to be either Jimmy G or they're going to trade Trey Lance. That's it. We figured it out. Problem solved. Get ready, guys.
All right. Can I pitch you some bets?
Let's do it. End on some bets. How did we do last week? We were 3-1 last week, right?
I was 3-1. You were 2-2.
No, I wasn't.
That's right.
You're a liar.
You went against Davis Mills, my guy. He covered by the hair on his chinny chin on his very long neck.
All right. Well, I don't play golf, but we're doing best ball, so we were 3-1 last week.
Okay, we were 3-1. All right. I got 2 props, and now I've added a 6th bet, but I've got 2 props and 4 game lines for you.
Okay.
And then one special one at the end. The first one I've got Kyle Pitts over 46.5 receiving yards. And you might be asking me, why would I bet on that when he has 38 receiving yards this season? And the answer is because he's a buy low candidate and people expected him to be an evolutionary Tony Gonzalez, and he hasn't been that good so far. And Arthur Smith is saying the ball is going to find him. And you look at the numbers, and he's still running a lot of routes. So 46.5 yards, that seems like it's bet down because of 2 bad weeks.
Yeah. I guess I would wonder what his average was last year. And Arthur Smith, I don't know him personally, but he seems like, I remember they asked him and he got like annoyed. He seems like a spiteful guy. And it's like, nah, you want me to throw the ball? I'm going to make sure Marcus doesn't throw the ball. But it's a low number. That's 2 big catches, right?
Yeah.
So I don't like rooting against people. So let's do it. It'll be fun. We'll go over 46 yards for him. Let's do it. We're in on that one. Thumbs up.
He was at like 55 yards per game ish last year.
All right, that's good.
My math is a little off because it's 17 versus 16 games, but in that range.
Okay, gotcha. Cool.
The next one, this is gonna hurt your heart a little bit, but under on passing yards for Justin Fields. 182.5 passing yards this week. And you might be asking, that seems like nothing for a NFL quarterback. Problem is, it's volume. He threw the ball 11 times last week. He has had 28 attempts this season.
Yeah.
Like, how is the game script going to change so massively from week 2 to week 3? The Kyle Pitts bet is we're not betting on the game script changing. We're betting on him forcing the ball within that same game script.
I don't want to root against my beloved Bears or Justin Fields, but I think that's a good bet. He's going to go under that, right?
I think so. I mean, their number 1 receiver had like negative yards last week. Darnell Mooney.
And they're going up against the Texans, who have a really good defense, or at least they've played really well the first couple of weeks. Yeah, I gotta go under. They're home, so the field's gonna be garbage. So yeah, we gotta go under. What's the number again? 180 something?
It was 182.5.
Yeah. These are bets that you made, so I think I'm just agreeing with you, right? These
you can agree or disagree.
But I haven't changed any of the bets. We're on your ticket right now, so yeah, I agree. I want to jump on that ticket with you.
Okay. Next one I got is Rams Cardinals. I got the Rams. It's minus 3.5. I'd be shocked if they don't win this game by a touchdown. Like Kyler it was such fool's gold last week with Arizona that they got back into that game. Because Kyler is able to do amazing things out of structure. The Rams defense still pretty good. Weird vibes, but like you're not playing the Raiders who are going to give away a 20-point lead. And I don't trust the infrastructure of, Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. And I do trust the brain of Sean McVay and Matt Stafford to get a big offensive boost when you're playing against the Arizona defense.
Yeah, I remember they beat Arizona last year. Let me find it. They beat Arizona in both their games last year. One was 18-7 and one was 38-28. It's not much. Yeah, Yeah, I think you're
The
right.
Cardinals are at home here too. So
Yeah,
I'm taking the road favorite.
I think that the Rams aren't as good as they were last year, and I think that the Rams are not as good as most of us think. However, I think they're much better than the Cardinals. The Cardinals got a fluke win last week and were getting dominated for much of the game. Kyler went all the way off.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening again. So yeah, I think that's so. What's the line again?
3.5.
3.5. Yeah, that's the tough part right there. Yeah, I mean they beat them by more than 3.5 both their games last year. I think you're right. I'm agreeing with you. I don't like this.
Well, next one's the lock of the century. And if you disagree with me on this one, I would be shocked. I checked this line twice because I was stunned by it. And I think it is just purely a reflection to what we thought before the year.
Right.
The Chiefs are playing at the Colts.
Oh, yeah.
The Chiefs are 5.5-point favorites against the team that's been the worst team in the NFL. And the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce and a million other good players because they're the Chiefs.
All right. So if the Chiefs are up by, let me think about this. How would this go wrong? It's too obvious. There has to be something that could make this go wrong. If the Chiefs are up by 10 at the end of the game, like that's the only way. It's like they give up some late touchdowns, but they can't score on anybody. The Chiefs D, this feels like it's too good to be true. It feels like
the Jaguars just beat the Colts by 24.
I know. And the Colts didn't even score a point.
Yep.
Yeah, this feels like a trap game, but I'm taking it.
Okay.
I'm taking it. You got to. It's only 5 points, right? They'll win by a touchdown at least.
I actually thought about, and I'll effort this over the rest of this, finding an alternative line of how much we're comfortable betting the Chiefs to win by. Next one is for you. It's the 49ers at the Broncos.
Yeah.
Broncos are 2.5-point favorites.
Oh yeah, let's go 49ers.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
easy.
I don't have the money line, but I think we can just bet that straight up. Let's take the money line on the 49ers.
Oh, just for them to win. That gives us better payout.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. Scared money don't make no money. Let's bet our fake money on the money line. Let's do it.
Gotta risk it for the biscuit.
What was that? That was Gango, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's Bruce Arians. The next one I am pandering to you, but I also think that this one, the lines this week they seem suspiciously easy, which means I'm going to lose all of them. But the Cowboys are playing at the Giants. Cowboys appear to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. The Giants are very well coached. The Giants are only 1-point favorites. Why wouldn't we just take the Giants at home?
Because Micah Parsons and Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones likes to fumble. Michael Parsons likes to hit quarterbacks, and Cooper Rush. We're counting on him back-to-back weeks to be able to score enough points for this offense to win. And Saquon Barkley could make a big play. I don't like this at all. This is a stay away.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I don't like it. We're gonna avoid this one. You can keep your money there so that if we get it right, we'll count it for us. But I will not put my fake money there.
Okay, the next one is, I think you're going to stay away from this one too, but I found this one a little bit tasty, just because I think the Titans are really bad. The Raiders are at the Titans, and the Raiders are 2-point favorites, and the Titans have looked awful.
Nope, that's a stay away.
Okay,
that is a stay away. I respect Mike Vrabel and that team, and I do not trust the Raiders. Yeah,
did you see when Sean McDermott jokingly said he could take Mike Vrabel, and Vrabel goes no, you couldn't.
I love Mike. Mike was he was on executive committee with me when I was on the union stuff. When I was on executive committee, I got to know him really well. He's one of those guys that you can really trust. I like Mike a lot, so that might be my own personal bias leaking in. He's a great dude. I ain't talked to him in forever, but I still root for him, and it makes it hard to bet against him, which is why I'm just gonna stay away, because I want to bet for him, and that's how I lose my money, by letting my heart make the bets.
I mean, I will say, I think we can all say Mike Vrabel, tough year, but we are happy that you get to keep your downstairs parts.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. All right, that's the last one.
No, I got one more tack on to anyone who wants to have a parlay, and this is actual free money. If you want to add some tennis to your card, Labor Cup is going on. Roger Federer is playing his last match for Team Europe. Team Europe has the 4 best players or 3 best players of all time plus Andy Murray, Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer. And it's sort of an exhibition. There's no way they're going to let Federer's team lose.
You can bet on this?
Team Europe is minus 425. And you can just add that as odds to whatever parlay, whatever card you have.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. I appreciate you butting in right there to make sure we got that last one. All right, Charlie, I appreciate you. Christina Buswell, thank you. Sarah Abbott, thank you. And we've added my man, Deontay Epps. So everybody, we know who everyone roots for, Deontay. So please, come on. You got to introduce yourself to the people and tell us who's your NFL team.
Man,
you don't have one?
I do, and y'all talk about. I'm a Broncos fan. I'm a Broncos fan.
Ooh,
so
Broncos country, let's ride.
Yeah, let's ride, man. But no, I've heard it all week. Obviously, working at ESPN about the Hackett situation. It's definitely been puzzling, but at this point, like you said, we just gotta ride with it and see what happens, man. But it's not looking good to start out, bro. Not at all.
I appreciate you, brother. Do we have a team? Did we give up on the Panthers? We're not a Panthers pod anymore.
Please.
Please. Yeah, we're not a Panthers pod. I think we're a Giants pod now. We're a Giants pod now.
Okay.
Dare I say Dolphins?
Oh,
fins up. Fins
welcome.
pod.
We're a Dolphins pod now. If the Dolphins win this weekend, we'll cut this part off and just say we're a Dolphins pod. Let's do it.
Beautiful.
All right. And the Giants win, we become a Giants pod.
Isn't a family of dolphins called a pod?
Oh yeah, it is.
Ooh,
perfect. All right, we're done. We're done. You know how much I love animal facts. I appreciate you. All right, Dolphins pod, fins up. Thank you guys. See you next week.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.